Thank you for joining the third annual Spring Financial Aid webinar series. This series is brought to you by the Northern California College Promise Coalition, or NCCPC for short. NCCPC is a collective impact coalition with over 40 members serving over 150,000 students across 12 Northern California counties. Our geographic footprint includes the 9 Bay Area counties, Sacramento, San Joaquin, and Tulare counties. We bring over 200 leaders together through committees, convenings, and working groups around 4 key pillars. Number 1, advancing public policy. Number 2, building campus partnerships. Number 3, scaling workforce pipelines. And number 4, convening communities of practice. Our members are locally and nationally recognized college access and success programs, advocacy organizations, college and neighborhood promise programs, K-12 and charter school districts, education technology nonprofits, individual advocates, and cities and mayors. We believe that working together, we can impact systemic change on behalf of all of the students we serve and beyond. We are excited to now welcome our presenters from CSAC. Michael Lemus, would you like to get us started? Outreach and Marketing Manager with the California Student Aid Commission.
Thank you everyone for having us. And I also want to go ahead and just state that my colleague, Alex Zucco, our State and Federal Policy Manager at the Commission, is also here. And thank you, Alex, for supporting in this effort. And a big shout out to our division and of course, Alex's team on the state and federal policy side for helping us to get to a point where we actually have legislation that I'm going to be talking about in a bit that really supports financial aid and making sure that our high school seniors are being supported through the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in, share my screen. Let me get this going. And if I can get a confirmation from folks that you can see the title slide, that would be great. I see a thumbs up, great. So let's go ahead and jump in. So today I'm going to go ahead and actually be talking to you about Assembly Bill 469, but we have rebranded it to make it more inclusive for folks that are not as familiar with legislative jargon as the All In for FAFSA / California Dream Act campaign. So I'm going to be going into a discussion around what it looked like to actually implement this campaign, what it actually is, and what we envision moving forward, as well as some promising results that we have seen as of last week, post March 2nd deadline, which is the state priority deadline for financial aid here in the state of California. So with that being said, let's jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and transition slides here and get this going. So first off, what is the All In for FAFSA / California Dream Act campaign? So essentially what it outlines is that starting in the 22-23 academic school year, so this current academic school year, high schools, continuation schools, and school districts, so those LEAs, will ensure that all high school seniors complete a FAFSA or a California Dream Act application, unless the student has formally opted out. One thing that I want to go ahead and just emphasize here is that it may seem easy for a student to opt out, but we really want to make sure and kind of state that really we don't want students to opt out from the financial aid opportunities that they have access to. And so, of course, if there's a good reason for a student to go ahead and opt out, that is, of course, completely up to them. But what we don't want is to go ahead and have the student just think, oh, well, that's the easy way out. Let me just go ahead and do this. Instead, we really want to go ahead and help inform students and their families on financial aid opportunities and what that actually looks like for students and families across the board. The goal of this campaign is to expand access to financial aid to thousands of students who may have otherwise not been aware of these opportunities. So there's a lot of discussion around financial aid access, what it looks like for students, families, but also, of course, you all who support these students and families as they learn about these engagement opportunities and ways to go ahead and essentially change their lives for the better as they pursue a post-secondary education. Whether that's a 4-year degree or an associate's degree or a certificate program, there is financial aid available for all types of programs. And we really want to make sure that we're inclusive in our messaging. At this point, before I actually transition to the next slide, although I can't see the chat right now, what I would love to get a better understanding of is who's in the room. So folks, if you want to go ahead and just quickly introduce yourself in the chat and what organization you are representing. It's always really nice for us at the commission. I'll take a look after I'm done presenting, but for us at the commission to be aware of our partners and who we can do more collaboration with. So if you want to go ahead and do that while I keep presenting, that would be great. I should also state for those of you that are not familiar with the commission, what we do and who we are. So we are the country's largest statewide student financial aid administrator. So what we do is we support students through financial aid. And for those of you that are familiar with the Cal Grant program, we of course deliver, we administer the Cal Grant, but we also actually oversee the California DREAM Act application. And we're one of few states across the entire country that even offer state aid for our undocumented students. And so we're very proud of that as well. So with that, I will transition us to the next slide while folks are introducing themselves in the chat. So where are we today? So we are at the point where we're in March, right? And so this has been going on for some time. We actually have been planning for this for well over a year, and the implementation really started on October 1st when the financial aid applications actually opened up. So there's been a lot that has already happened. And like I mentioned, there have been some really promising results that really speak to the impact of this campaign. We're also learning from other states and what they have been doing when it comes to universal FAFSA implementation. And everyone does it slightly different. So what I'm going to be talking about is what California has been doing, but we're very excited because, again, we've seen some really good results. And so we're happy to talk about that with our educational partners here. So with that being said, we go back to that page. For our landing page, this is something that everyone has access to. And if our folks over at NCCPC, I know they've added it to the Padlet, but if you all want to go ahead and post that, or Alex as well, our all-in landing page in the chat, this is really where we want to go ahead and centralize our resources and what folks can do to further engage the community as it pertains to this campaign. So again, it is a piece of legislation, but it is a campaign to us because there's so many different things that happen because of the all-in campaign. So there's resources, of course, there's the financial aid applications, there are trainings, there are a lot of different things that pertain to this campaign. So we thought it would be easiest to go ahead and instead just centralize everything on one page, which is the all-in landing page. And the goal is to clearly just organize everything, centralize it, and then really just specify what audience we're trying to reach. So for example, if you're an educator, there's going to be a section for you. If there's a student and their family that ends up on this landing page, there's going to be a section for them. And we're continuously building this page because it is a living page and a living landing page that we're just continuously updating. What this consists of are student and family resources, educator resources. There's also training opportunities that you all can take advantage of, as well as social media resources. So we're going to have, I think there is someone that went off mute. Let me just make sure that goes up. Okay. So with the landing page, there's also going to be a social media section as well in case you want to amplify those efforts. And we also have a PSA that you will notice once you actually click on that link that we're very excited about on the Golden State Warriors. They actually produced a public service announcement for us, has over 1 million plays on TikTok, which is really exciting, and many, many thousand plays on YouTube and other platforms. But there are various ways that we're really trying to engage the community and make this more exciting, because we know, we're very well aware that financial aid sometimes isn't the most exciting to talk about. So we are trying to make that more exciting for the folks that do come across these materials. So that is the landing page. Some examples here on the screen that you can see are some of the actual documents that exist currently. So you have posters, you have 5-step documents, you have checklists. There's a lot of different things that you all can actually use with your students as they prepare to submit a financial aid application. But also we have letters and different things that explain the campaign, the purpose of the campaign. So if you ever get a question from anyone that's like, why are we doing this? You can easily refer to one of these documents and really explain the importance of it. So with the student and family resources, we have, like I mentioned, 5-step documents, we have checklists, we have different fact sheets. For our educators and their resources, we have explanations on how to build a team that's dedicated to this all-in effort, various FAQs related to the applications, workshop flyers, and a lot more that is going to be produced. So let's talk about outreach and marketing. So we are in a place where outreach and marketing, of course, is critical to any sort of campaign that we launch. And so what we have been doing is going up and down the state, in person, virtually as well. really talking to people about financial aid in this campaign. And so the picture that you actually see at the top with all the cheerleaders and that big all-in dollar is actually an example of what we did. That was our launch event for the financial aid season. I believe that was in Riverside, if I'm not mistaken. So that's an example. We actually had a rally to basically announce the fact that the applications were open. And again, to make this more exciting, the other opportunity, or the other example I should mention here again, is Steph Curry. As you can see there, he and Coach Kerr actually developed a PSA for us where they're talking about the All-In campaign and the importance of applying for financial aid. So we're using all sorts of methods. We're going to different fairs and expos in schools. We're using traditional media, of course, looking at making sure that we're on the news and collaborating with our partners and amplifying their efforts. PSAs. We actually just got word for folks that are in the Sacramento area that we got a confirmation from the Sacramento Kings that they have actually produced their PSA. And so we should be releasing that soon as well. And we're going to be getting PSAs from a variety of different people, not just sports teams, to go ahead and really connect to people in a variety of different ways. And of course, social media has been a game changer for us as we reach out to students, but of course, other members of our community, but in particular, students that are really, really on social media. You know, we've been asked these past couple of months, and really well over a year now, what is CSAC doing about TikTok? What are you all doing about video? And I can finally say that we are very much consistently posting on TikTok, creating Instagram Reels, making sure that we reach out to our students in a variety of different ways. We know that that's where they're at. And so we have to be in all the places that they're at to go ahead and effectively communicate with them. We also use our social media for you all as educators and our community partners, for parents. We just target messaging and we make sure to go ahead and specify, you know, who we're addressing our message to. But that's all very critical to how we move forward and how this campaign has been successful. We have to really touch base with our partners and of course do local, regional targeted efforts as well. So a lot having to do with overall outreach and marketing. And the other thing that I want to also touch base on, and the work that Alex does and across our division, is really working with our elected officials. And so that's been really, really important. They've been very excited and very supportive in being able to amplify these efforts. And of course, talk about it with their constituents that may not be aware of these things. And so that is digitally, but also in person at events. And Alex and the team has been wonderful in helping to coordinate those things for our Cash for College workshops. So that has been great. Some other examples here. So that top left photo is a really cool thing that I got to do actually, was to go to the LA City Council, and they have a youth group of high school students and college students, and they actually zoomed into the room and they got this opportunity to go ahead and ask me questions about financial aid. And let me just say, they were really, really detailed questions. And it's just really incredible to see that students are that not just informed, but also interested in financial aid opportunities. They talked about barriers. They talked about how we as a state agency should be communicating with them. So special shout out to the LA City Council for inviting us to go ahead and do that. If you all know of opportunities where you feel like the commission should be present, whether that be virtually or in person, you can of course let us know. To the right of that photo, we actually have one of our trainers, Mina Tran, who's actually at one of the Black College Expos. And really, again, just delivering the message about financial aid. That bottom left photo, you can see our executive director, Marlene Garcia, on a really big screen. That was an educational fair at Sacramento State that had, I think, a couple thousand people. And I believe that was the Feria event. And then to the right side, at the very right bottom, we have a couple of members for our educational institutions, some of our commissioners. And again, you can see that all-in dollar, the all-in dollar that's being taken to a couple of events across the state. But some examples, I like to provide some visuals so that folks can go ahead and see some of the things that we're up to. Now, if you're part of an educational organization, or if you're a community-based partner and you're wondering, okay, how are you engaging us? So at the educator and district leadership engagement level, we are doing targeted communications. So we're looking at membership newsletters, we're looking at messaging that we can do with the California Department of Education, with school board associations, going to different conferences, meeting with school leadership across the state to make sure that folks are aware, but also feel supported through this process. We know that at the school level, folks may be inundated with just the amount of things that they have to do. We don't want to make this harder. We don't want anyone to think, oh, here we go, another requirement has been placed on us. Instead, we want folks to see it not as a requirement, but as an opportunity, and also an opportunity to really make sure that we reach the students that really need this support. We've been going to a lot of conferences, and so we have been really busy. It's been a busy conference season, going to places like the California Association for Bilingual Education, Western Association for College Admission Counseling, School Boards Conference, the Black School Educators Luncheon, and those are just a few of the many that we have been traveling to again, talk about this all-in campaign and the importance of financial aid. So data, I'm sure you all have been talking about data in your respective groups, but we are too, and we're really trying to make sure that when we make decisions around any sort of outreach that we do, or even social media or marketing, that everything's informed due to data, right? That's informed, that we are looking at data as we continue to make these decisions. So we do have a race to submit dashboard. So if someone actually can put that in the chat, that would be awesome. But we have a race to submit dashboard that's managed by the commission. It tracks FAFSA CADA rates and completion rates and submission rates actually for our high schools. We are up compared to where we were last year, which is really great news. Again, speaking to the success of the campaign. And there's still an opportunity for us to continue to actually get students to apply. One thing that I do want to note, there's a lot of focus on March 2nd, the state priority deadline. But what a lot of people don't know about is that there's another deadline, September 2nd. So students, the students that are actually still in high school right now, so March through June, they still have the ability to apply through September 2nd if they're going to a community college. So they actually still have this opportunity to apply. So you'll start to see, and may have already started to see, that the commission will switch its messaging from March 2nd to September 2nd over the next couple of months to get as many students to apply. That's still going to actually apply to this all-in campaign. A lot of people ask us, oh, does it just stop at March 2nd? No, actually, we continue the work. And so the rates that you see right now are actually just through March 2nd. Those are expected to rise as we continue to get more applications from our September 2nd students. The goals of really using this data is to identify and reach out to any sort of underperforming schools and districts where we can reach out directly and say, hey, we've noticed that these schools are, let's say, 40% or less when it comes to FAFSA CADA completion. Here are all the things that you have access to. You have Cash for College workshops, you have webinars, you have your local partners over at the CalSOAP level or Cash for College regional coordinating organizations. And we really want to go ahead and also make sure that we're tracking any sort of marketing efforts that we put out. So anything that we do, again, should be informed by data. And we want to look at what data looked like prior to us launching a campaign, through the campaign, and after the campaign. So everything is to be assessed. We don't want to just make some random decisions and be like, that sounds great. It really should be informed on data. So that's a bigger goal of us as we continue to move forward. But just know that we're keeping track of all that information. And so we are now developing targeted campaigns, working with our partners that can include you all as well, to really make sure that we're reaching, especially any sort of schools that are, experiencing challenges when it applies to their completion rates. I just talked about Race to Submit a bit, but I do want to go ahead and emphasize this because it is a really popular tool. I know there's also a lot of healthy competition among the schools as it pertains to Race to Submit. But it really does create this healthy competition to increase the number of financial aid applications submitted by high school seniors. So it does get tracked. There's typically an award ceremony, so people do actually get recognition. So schools get recognition when they do really well. And it's updated actually weekly, sometimes actually every other day. There's been a lot of updates recently, of course, post March 2nd, but it could be filtered by high school, by school district, and by county. So you can also download that data in a CSV format. So some of the things that you can access there are the completion and submission rates. But you can also look at the amount of students that are eligible for Cal Grant. So there's a lot of really good information that you can get from the Race to Submit dashboard. So I highly encourage you all use it. And if you have any questions about it, to please reach out to us so that we can make sure that we answer those. The other tool that folks are not as aware of, and I want to make sure at least you all know about, is the data dashboard that we have. This is separate from the Race to Submit. So if you actually go to csac.ca.gov/data, there is a Tableau data dashboard. You can think about it that way. That actually keeps track of total applications by county, by high school, by district, by segment. So if you're like, I want to know where FAFSA CADA rates are for the California State University system, or I want to know where are we at with the California Community College students, you can actually access all of that. And it is a couple of days, I think, not delayed, but basically, I think you can see through the last couple of days. So it's not going to show up what today looks like, but I think it's maybe 2 or 3 days behind. But either way, still really good information to get, and you can actually filter out those results. So if you're ever wondering, okay, where are we at overall? That's a really, really cool tool that you can go ahead and utilize, and a lot of really cool filtering tools that you can also implement depending on what you're looking for. So that is that data dashboard. The NCAN FAFSA tracker. So I actually have some exciting news here. So I actually just checked this morning. So this slide is not actually up to date, or doesn't have the most up to date, but as of March 3rd, I know this slide says as of February 24th. Last week, we were number 20 in the nation in total FAFSA submissions. I just checked this morning, and as of March 3rd, we're actually number 8 in the nation. And that's a really, really great thing. We haven't been in the top 10. I don't know if we've ever been in the top 10, but we certainly have not been in the top 10 in the last 2 or 3 years because we're such a massive state. So to get us in the top 10, it really takes a lot. And we're actually carrying the national rates. So there was an article that was actually just released that the big uptick in national FAFSA trends, or in FAFSAs increasing, a large part of that is actually being carried by California because we are so large. So really exciting to see that we are now number 8. I wouldn't be surprised when it actually gets refreshed again if we're even higher, but being in the top 10 is amazing. And if you actually see the top 10 list, the majority of the actual states that are in that top 10 list are states that have implemented a similar form of legislation. So again, speaking to the success of the campaign and why this is so important, there's a lot of really good stuff there. But NCAN FAFSA tracker, if you just Google NCAN FAFSA tracker, you can go ahead and actually see where we're at as of March 3rd. And there's some really good information there that you can also pull by state as well. And Cash for College and CalSOAP, I do want to go ahead and state really the importance of these organizations. If you're not familiar with our Cash for College program or our CalSOAP program, so that is within our what the commission oversees. So they're 2 of our largest outreach programs on behalf of the commission. Many of you may already be familiar, but in case you're not, the Cash for College program are basically a series of workshops and webinars across the state that are actually delivered not just by CSAC, but by our local partners, schools, community-based organizations that actually help students fill out their financial aid applications. So from A to Z, they will get that assistance, students and their families. Depending on the region, there may be different workshops in different languages. Some schools offer a workshop where they have live translation in multiple languages, which is really cool. But the Cash for College program, we also have these regional coordinating organizations. They're local partners that we've gone into contract with that are actually doing very targeted outreach in their regions and doing Cash for College workshops, working directly with us to go ahead and make sure that we reach students in those areas. Now, the CalSOAP program is built a little bit differently, but also is an outreach program. And they are set up as 16 different consortiums across the state. And so these consortiums, each of them are built up or made up of different educational institutions, community-based organizations. They have, of course, staff within their actual CalSOAP. They have student success coaches that are college students. There's a number of partners that make up each consortium, and we're lucky to have 16 across the state, spread out across the state. And those CalSOAPs each have their own staff to dedicated efforts. And they've been amazing partners in helping us to amplify this campaign, but also, of course, to continue to increase our Cash for College offerings. So what we've been doing is really focusing on these regional partnerships. So as we pull the data, we're now saying, okay, we're seeing that this region really needs some additional support. They're having challenges with FAFSA rates. Do we have an event? Do we have something in person? Do we send some additional resources that they can post on social media? Is it all the above? We're looking at everything and working directly with the Cash for College partners and the CalSOAPs to expand our reach by staffing various events. So this could be an expo, it could be a fair, it could be a Cash for College workshop. Of course, developing key partnerships. So each of these consortiums and the RCOs, they have different partners, may even include you all. So schools, community-based organizations, and then really forming those partnerships to see what else can we be doing together, because this really is meant to be a collaboration. And when we say all in, we really do mean all in. So it's not just, us and the educators that are needing to do this. It's everyone we want to be involved in the conversation. The other thing is that the CalSOPs and the RCOs are helping to recruit folks to get trained through our Train the Trainer program. So if you don't know about the Train the Trainer program, it is something that we offer through Cash for College. You all can actually get formally certified. It's about a 2-hour training, formally certified on behalf of the commission to host your own Cash for College workshops, which is really, really cool. We've trained, I think, over 200 organizations now. And you can go ahead and get that official certification, something you can put on LinkedIn. And then you can also, of course, offer your Cash for College workshops. We have a couple of trainers. I think we have one this month coming up. So if you want to register for one of those, that's an ongoing effort that we continue to offer. And I do want to talk about social media because in this day and age, I'm a strong believer that if we're trying to reach students and families, or really anyone for that matter, you have to be on social media. And so I know that it makes people a little bit uncomfortable and nervous sometimes, but there's true power in utilizing social media platforms to reach an audience. And that has been something that we have seen huge success in across the board. And if you're wondering, oh, where is CSAC on social media? We're pretty much everywhere, but we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We are also on LinkedIn, and we're also on TikTok. On most platforms, we're at CA Student Aid. We're easily found. Highly encourage that you all follow us and share our platforms. But I do want to go over a bit of some of the things that we have found with social media. So some of our top performing posts, if you're wondering, okay, well, what type of content should we be posting, or what does the commission post? You know, we're in an interesting spot because we're a state agency. And so we have to tread carefully in terms of our tone because we are a state agency, right? We work on behalf of the government. But we also have to be fun enough and interesting enough to reach students and families, as well as you all as our partners. And so it's somewhere where we have to really kind of meet in the middle, because we have to constantly also be assessing what are the trends that are on TikTok, what are the trends that are on Instagram, some of which us as a state agency are not going to be the most appropriate for us to go ahead and get involved with. Some we can. And so we have to constantly be assessing that. And so one of the things that I wanted to show you all here are just examples of some of the things that we've been doing. So we have organic. And organic posts are posts that we make that we do not pay money into. And so those are just, you know, regular posts. We also have posts that we do actually pay into paid ads that really help us get out to a massive amounts of people. And then we also look at program specific posts. So maybe we want to talk about the Golden State Education and Training Grant or the Golden State Teacher Grant Program. Maybe we just want to talk about the California Dream Act application. We'll have posts dedicated to different things, but we'll also have general messaging. So you'll see at the left, Sarah Beth, our outreach and marketing coordinator on TikTok, asked, did you know that 1 million California students have already applied for financial aid for college and that we still have money left? So that was a really popular post. And what's interesting is that some of the posts that have gone viral for us are some of the most simple. It's not something that we like spent, you know, hours planning. It could literally be 5 seconds, a message that is just really powerful or sparks curiosity, and bam, you get 50,000 plays. So you never really know. It's something that we're constantly assessing and looking at, okay, well, what's a common theme? So the one that you can see, me texting the besties to let them know that the March 2nd state priority financial aid deadline is coming up. So that one got over 12,000 plays, and it's literally me acting like I'm texting someone. And so those are the things, but we know because we see the trends, we look at things, that's what they're doing. The fact that they even use the word to say bestie, like we're looking at all of those things to see what is the lingo that the students use and bringing that into the things that we of course say in our messaging. Videos featuring staff or actual people have been really popular for us too, but anything that's educational or informative, it causes them or causes our audience to really press share. And any time that we get a lot of shares, it's going to be a good performing post for us. Now, in terms of paid ads, if you do have the ability to actually invest in paid ads, I strongly recommend it. It's really produced some amazing results for us at the commission. Just in showing you some of the things here. So some of the ads that we recently have boosted or paid into, you know, we spent quite a bit of money into that Golden State Warriors campaign, which actually has done really, really great things for us. We placed it on YouTube, we placed it on Hulu, we placed it on TikTok and different platforms like Meta. And you can see that line. Let me see if I can actually show you by date. As we bumped up some of these things, which are at the lines. So when we did this one for our UC Merced Cash for College event, that received a lot of engagement. So you can see where these lines are that are going up when we start to see an uptick in really big engagement. That's when we've paid into ad buy. The ad buy is always really, really great for us. And it could be a small ad buy, or it could be something really big like we did for the Golden State Warriors. But if you're trying to create an audience, or if you're trying to grow a community, TikTok is an example where we're still fairly new to TikTok. So we had maybe a little less than 100 before we released the Golden State Warriors TikTok campaign. And within days, we had jumped up to almost nearly 500 followers. That video alone got over 1 million plays. So we learned a lot, because now we know, okay, these are the types, if we're going to go ahead and create targeted ad buy on TikTok, this is the type of caption we need to use. This is the type of call to action that we need to create. We need to go ahead and say, you know, click the link in the bio and all those things. So every post does take a little bit of thought process, but if you do have the ability to buy ads, again, strongly recommended, because it really does produce some amazing things. Again, you know, over 1 million plays on that PSA. We got over a little less than 400,000 people to actually, you know, see some of these posts. So really, really great results. Now, the PSA, as I mentioned on YouTube, because we did pour efforts into this, it did get 22,000 views on YouTube. We got 5.4 million impressions across all platforms when we looked at all the paid ads. And we did spend quite a bit of money on it. So again, that's something to consider. I don't want that $16,000 to scare anyone though, because some folks might be like, we have $100 to spend on ad buy. That's okay too. You just want to go ahead and do your research in terms of how to best utilize any sort of funding that you're going to place into it, because that can still create, you know, a following for your accounts. It can still create a lot of video plays. The big deal is that if you're wanting to, of course, pay into ads, you want people to see it. There should always be a clear call to action and something to measure after the fact so that you can see if it's successful. And that's something that we're really, really pouring into and looking at on a deeper level. And we're getting close to the end, and then I'll open it up, of course, if there's any questions, and then I'll catch up on the chat. But something that's really important for us is producing content in multiple languages. So you can see a couple of different examples here. The commission feels very strongly that when it comes to financial aid access, that we approach it through an equitable framework. So we are very conscious of the fact that, of course, California is very diverse. There are a lot of different types of people with many different types of languages. So something that we have been doing right now is either working in-house with our staff or externally with our partners to produce content in multiple languages. That includes things like flyers, but it also includes videos and how we can go ahead and amplify those efforts. The other thing that we are looking into is figuring out ways that we can create more of a sustainable plan when it comes to creating content in multiple languages. I'll be fully transparent with you all that this has been a challenge for us because we're a small state agency. I think folks sometimes assume that the California Student Aid Commission is this massive state agency like some of the others that exist that are hundreds, if not thousands of people. We're actually less than 150 full-time employees at the commission. And so we don't have that many people. And we also, if you look at the 150 employees, they don't all speak multiple languages. And so we only have a handful of people that actually even speak Spanish to the point where they can create this type of content. And when we look at other languages, it gets a little bit even more challenging. So we're also now looking at what does it look like to create a sustainable plan to go outside of the commission to actually start either an external contract of some sort to make sure that we can actually get things translated and it's not so much of a challenge. So we definitely understand that that's something that people care about and we care about it. So we want to make sure that we meet people where they're at. Some resources to help as we close out. So again, we have the All In for FAFSA / California Dream Act landing page. We have annual statewide financial aid workshops. We have presentations on All In, Cash for College workshops, webinars. As far as data, we have web grants, Race to Submit, Tableau, data dashboards, and of course, all of our marketing materials on social media, postcards, and all sorts of things that we create as far as flyers, one-pagers, checklists. So a lot of things that you can tap into. And this is a QR code to the All In page. So if you do have a device with you right now, or if you haven't clicked on it in the chat or wherever else it's been posted, you can access that there. It will take you to the All In landing page. But check it out. There's a lot of really good information there. We also have our Cash for College webpage and our social media toolkits webpage if you do want to amplify our efforts there. And with that, I'm going to close it out and then open it up for any sort of open Q&A. But I do want to go ahead and say thank you on behalf of the commission. Thank you, Alex, for being here as well. And of course, to the coalition for inviting us to such a critical and much needed conversation. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and we'll open it up.
Thank you so much, Michael, for that great presentation. Folks, if you would take a moment to use your Zoom reactions to just show Michael appreciation for all of those great insights and resources that were shared. And Alex has been hitting up the Padlet hardcore, providing some answers already. So if you both don't mind, I'm going to lift up some of these questions, even though some of them were answered, just for the benefit of those listening and for the translation. There are two related to who this impacts. So if we could start with that first. The two questions are, what does all in mean for students who are not going to college after high school? Does applying for aid and not going to college negatively affect students? And then does this affect high schools that are privates as well?
Great question. I'll start off with the latter, and Alex, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it does not apply to private schools. It
That's
does.
correct.
Okay, thank you. It does, however, apply to continuation and charter schools, I think, are also included, correct?
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Private and parochial schools were not included in AB 469.
Thank you. Now, as far as the first part of the question, in terms of, who does this impact? Obviously, it's targeted, of course, towards high school seniors, because that's the really big part of the legislation. However, the way we've branded it, and this is where we hope that people will see it as, is, that whole part of All In campaign, it really impacts everyone in education to some sort of extent, right? If it pertains to high school seniors, the educators, the counselors, the school district staff, any of the community-based organizations that work with students and families, us at the commission, there's so many different folks that are involved in this process. Now, if a student says, I do not want to go to college, a bigger part of that conversation that's not really, our lane as far as, financial aid, but it's related is, what does that conversation look like with that student if, maybe they've counted themselves out of college because they think they're not going to be able to fund it, or because they don't have the resources, or maybe they've never been, empowered to go ahead and actually have a conversation about going to college. There are some students that we come across that kind of just automatically count themselves out because no one's ever talked to them about it. Now, with you all, there's probably, of course, a really good chance that you've already met with students that you're trying to get them to, of course, see the value in higher education. We also know that that's a bigger conversation these days. Students are questioning whether they should go to college or not. Now, if a student has a valid reason, for example, they're like, no, I know that, the military is going to be the next, step. They can opt out. But again, just because the student opts out doesn't necessarily mean that they're blocked from financial aid. So this is the thing that we really want to hone in on, is that they still have the ability to actually apply. We don't want folks to just automatically opt out unless they have a valid reason to do so. We do understand, if we think about things from an equitable framework, there are some students that unfortunately, due to maybe a disability status or a health condition, that they're not able to continue, school at the moment past their high school career. So we also know that some of those students may fall into that when it comes to the opt-out type of process. But we also know that there are a lot of students, probably countless students across California, that have never had anyone speak to them about these opportunities and just automatically think that they're not going to qualify for anything and count themselves out. We want to flip the switch and instead, again, continue to expand this campaign. And that's what we're doing right now, especially March through June. We're going to be working with those students that, want to, maybe have never had the conversation about college, and maybe can still see the California Community College, which is an extremely viable option, a great option to go ahead and continue their educational pursuits. And that could be that they pursue a certificate or that they pursue an associate's degree. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a 4-year path. We just want students to know that there are options. That's really the big piece. I know that was a long-winded answer, but I think it's a part of a greater conversation.
And it is because you also have, like, if they are maybe deciding, I want to work on air conditioners, that's where the certificate comes in. And so they can get to that program, that's Cal Grant C, and get started. And then they realize, I really do love working on air conditioners so much. I want to open my own business. And then they think, maybe I should take one business class at the community college. This can also kind of lead into that. But we're just looking for any way to support a student in whatever their post-secondary needs are. It does not have to be college for everybody, but I think in general, the concern was you would be impacted, like you would be forced to take some money or forced to go into debt. If you do nothing after you apply for FAFSA, nothing happens to that. It is completely You are not obligated in any way to then take that money that is grant money and go on to a college. It is just opening that door so it doesn't kind of, you want to open all the doors and not leave any, kind of close yourself out of any options.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that thorough answer, Michael and Alex. This one is about, I believe, the reports and data dashboards. In the future, will there be an indicator between FAFSA and the California Dream Act and the opt-out form on the reports and dashboards?
Yeah, what I recommend is actually, because that's actually managed by our data assessment and research team. So what I recommend, and I can go ahead and put our email here. So I'm going to put the outreach and marketing email in the chat. Is if you have any questions related to, data specific questions, because they manage all those dashboards, feel free to email outreach and marketing, and then we can connect you to someone from the data team to better assess that, because yeah, they were constantly updating those platforms. So I would imagine that there's, who knows, things that I may not even be aware of that already exists, but definitely want to connect you to the experts on that.
And for the for this first year, reporting out on how many opt-outs
Right.
would be reported was not included. Some of that will be able to be inferred. Like, for example, if we know that last year, John Muir High School had 100 students and they had 50 students fill out a FAFSA or a CADA, a California Dream Act application, that would have led us to believe that 50 students did not fill out anything. This year, that inference would be that they filled out the opt-out. The goal is that 100% of all students do one or the other. There isn't going to be anything statutorily, unless I imagine if kind of the lawmakers who were looking at the spirit of the law and said, we really want to make sure that students aren't opting out and maybe that they are kind of having these conversations. So if the numbers stay exactly the same as last year, people might look at it and say, maybe we do need to actually kind of take a look at those numbers. But as it stands right now, if that was going to change, it would need to be something in statute to mandate it.
Thank you for that, Alex. And related, since you brought that up, let me find where the question went. What would you like to see advocates and the legislature focus on in terms of college affordability over the upcoming year?
Ooh, that's a big one. My first one would be to, so we are looking to reform Cal Grants. That is our big push. The Cal Grant process is complicated. There's A, there's B, there's C, there's Chafee, there's all these things. So we, in the prior year, last legislative year, we did finally get the Cal Grant reform to get over the finish line and signed by the governor. With, of course, one little caveat that in May of 2024, if there is enough revenue, because there will be more money, ongoing funds that need to happen for Cal Grant reform, a trigger will happen that will initiate and get that going. So our advocacy is focused almost completely around ensuring that that trigger is pulled in May of 2024, so Cal Grant reform can happen. Right now, we are doing all of the behind the scenes work on what would need to happen for that kind of transition from the old system to the new system, because for a couple of years, they will both need to work in tandem. Anybody that is currently getting Cal Grant A, B, or C will be grandfathered into the new program. So you'll have students kind of living in both worlds for a moment. So that is our biggest point right now, is on advocacy around Cal Grant reform. The other is we traditionally, last 3 years, we've put out a work group report. 3 years ago, it was Cal Grant Equity, and then we did Cal Grant Reform. Last year was Cal Fresh and how students access basic needs. And last year, we've been working on Cal Grant, on Cal Fresh access. This year, it was undocumented student affordability. And so this year, we're looking to make that process easier for our undocumented students with one bill that we're sponsoring, AB 1540, that would remove one of the, not remove one of the forms, but streamline it into our California Dream Act application. Every AB 540 student or student that is undocumented that has been in a public school for 3 years needs to fill out an affidavit that says, yes, I was in a California public school for 3 years. And there's no reason why that can't be part of our application process to make it easier for the student, make it easier for the institution. and create kind of less obstacles of where DREAM students are dropped from the process. So those are our 2 or 3 big ones that we have.
That's great. Thank you so much, Alex. And folks, we do have a little bit of time left, so keep the questions coming. We have a few more. The next one is related to, it looks like the school certified GPA. What happens if a student submits an application without a school certified GPA? Is the March 2 deadline for Cal Grants final? And I see you have an answer here, Alex. So either you or Michael, if you want to take this.
Yeah, my answer was I'm not sure on the certified GPA how that happens. The March 2nd deadline is firm, unless your school district requested in advance because of some sort of natural disaster or technology disaster, you needed an extension of a month. But I don't know if Michael has more information on how the verified GPA comes in.
I do not, however, something, because this is a common thing that we get around just GPA questions. So we do have a school support. They're actually institutional support, but we have a school support contact. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. So it's schoolsupport@csac.ca.gov. If you have questions about web grants related to schools or GPAs, GPA matching, GPA certification, any of those things, we actually have an entire unit dedicated to that. That assists with those efforts. So I'm going to put that in the chat. So it's schoolsupport@csac.ca.gov. And they can help out with those efforts. And I do know that there was also a question about if there's a link to AB 1540. And Alex, I'm not sure if there's one already out there in the internet, but I'm not aware of that.
Oh, I'm not sure if it is completely in print, but let me get that for you. Hold on.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And for anything that we can't capture today, we'd be happy at NCCPC to follow up and then to bring those resources into the Padlet later. And for folks, all resources that have been posted in the Zoom chat have also been added to the Padlet. So if you're furiously trying to save links, just know you can go to the Padlet at any time. Thank you for that link, Alex. I'll be sure to add it. This next one is about your promotional strategy, your outreach strategy. After the Golden State Warriors ad, was there a huge jump in applications for FAFSA? I think you had a chart up earlier that might have shown some of that.
Yeah, so we're actually still assessing that info now. What we can tell, and this is the interesting part of also just ad buy and social media. So one of the things, of course, like the ultimate goal is to be able to track conversion rates. And so if we do, let's say on TikTok, say we post that and we get a lot of plays, we want to make sure, and we do in our caption, say link in bio to apply, and that there's something in the video itself that's also amplifying those efforts. We're actually assessing that information now since the deadline just closed last week to look at, and this is where we get to do a little bit more storytelling, is how many of the students or folks that actually just decided to click on that via TikTok went to our link in bio, then went to the all-in landing page, and then from there went to the how to apply. It's a lot of information to assess. We can tell that just overall outreach and marketing just efforts overall did play a significant impact, because what we're able to see also when we do look at the amount of students that at least clicked on the all-in page, the majority of them are actually coming through social media. So we are able to track even down to the platform how that funnel is working out. And so we can tell how many of the clicks actually came through from Meta platforms versus TikTok platforms. So we have seen an uptick there. Now we're assessing how many of those students actually ended up applying. The bonus to it all, though, was that TikTok is a platform where we're really trying to grow because we know that that's where the current students, at least high school students and college students, are at. We grew our following, like I said, in a couple hundred in amount of, I think, 2 or 3 days. And so that's a bonus, because now we have those students that are part of our community that we can continue to have more conversations with. They can share out our material. But it's kind of twofold in that sense, because there's the traditional social media engagement that you would get from plays, engagements, all shares. And then there's, did it actually work in terms of getting them to do what you want them to do? And that's why we're such a strong proponent for, if you're going to release any sort of video, that there's some sort of call to action. And just an additional bonus little social media tool, if you don't have something like a centralized link that has all of your important links, Linktree is something that we use, but I'm sure there are many other examples there. But it's really nice to be able to just say link in bio, because what I've seen before, sometimes folks will post a link in Instagram, for example, on a caption. And you can't click on a link when you're looking at a caption on Instagram. So if you put link in bio, it's that much more higher of a chance that the student's actually going to go to your actual link, click on that, and then access the right thing. So just something to assess there. The other thing is that if you're a data analytics geek like me when it comes to social media, you can track all of those things. So all those analytics can be tracked and you can see who's clicking on what link at what time and all those demographics. And most social media platforms also offer that too.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael. And I'm sure there are some of those data geeks and lovers out there. This is going to be the last question based on time, but if folks have any other burning questions, please post them to the Padlet. If this is a quick answer, we may be able to get to one more. Cal Grant FAFSA campus transitioning. Is there a support document or page focusing on assisting students who transition from 2 to 4 year campuses or the reverse? How to navigate the funding needed or offered, and that can be held in reserve and why? And I see there's a few cool links that Alex has posted. Go ahead, Alex.
Yes, we do. On the Cal Grant page, we do talk about that at a very high level, since we know that a lot of this is really campus based. But there is specifically something on transferring with your Cal Grant, so that since that is an entitlement and how those work. So that information is there. But the segment offices, and when I say segment, I mean your UC, CSU, community college or private institution, they will also have really great information on how you can transfer, especially at the community college level, and what their transfer pathways look like to the a 4-year institution. So I would definitely explore that as well. They are a great resource.
Fantastic. And because of how quickly you took that on, I'm going to ask the last question. When can folks expect the final data on the FAFSA CADA completion rates from CSAC?
Yeah, so if you're curious about what numbers look like post March 2nd, those numbers are already ready on the race to submit. And so I believe they're as of March 12th, if I'm not mistaken. It may have gotten refreshed today, but those are already there. We did surpass our numbers from last year. Now we're continuing to go. So normally the race to submit actually closes March 2nd. We actually had a conversation in-house within our leadership team, and we decided to go ahead and actually extend it through the end of June. So that's actually when you're going to be able to see really the true results of the entire academic year. So it's nice to see that we're already, we've already crossed where we were last year and we surpassed that. We still have 3 more months. And so there's a lot of opportunity to go ahead and continue the conversation. So if you're curious about that, I would say check in with us again at the end of June, and then we should have, I'm hoping that we can actually get to at least 60%. That's just a personal goal that I have, but we'll see. We're close. So I'm hopeful that we can get there. Last year, we ended off at 53% at the end of it all. But who knows? It may even be higher. But I would say check in with us at the end of June, and then we should have more final numbers then.
Nice. Does that impact the race to submit winners that I know you all end up identifying each year?
I believe so. So I think the decision was to just extend it through end of June. So I think which is going to be a newer thing for folks, right, that are very used to just, focusing their efforts on March 2nd. This is an opportunity, I would say, and speaking of healthy competition, it's an opportunity for maybe folks that haven't been doing as much around the September 2nd, just because that hasn't been, a huge, campaign to, I don't know, maybe come in and surprise some folks. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And we're a fan of healthy competition if it's going to increase those FAFSA rates.
I think we all agree. And well, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Alex. Everybody, last opportunity to send them all of your good vibes through the chat. Use your Zoom reactions. There's several emojis you can use. But thank you, Michael and Alex, especially for the information to get us inspired to continue to promote past today into June. So thank you to our speakers again, Michael Lemus and Alex Zucco. Thank you for presenting on what's new in financial aid. And thank you for providing all those resources that are now in the Padlet. We want to thank all of our incredible presenters from across 10 partners who shared their gifts of time, talent, and treasure with us over the last 4 weeks, from February 23 through March 16, 2023. Whether you attended one session or more, please complete our exit ticket and let us know how we can enhance these sessions and this series for future years. Thank you to our generous partners for providing our wonderful gifts for our series raffle. You can win one of 5 prizes, like a backpack filled with goodies from our steering committee member MoneyThink, a $100 athletic gift card, or a Gap Bank swag bag. Don't forget to check out the rest of this YouTube playlist for more great content from our partners. Thank you again to our 10 partners from across the state of California: the University of California, the California State University, the California Community Colleges, the California Student Aid Commission, ScholarShare 529 and CalKids, AICCU, or the Association for Independent California Colleges and Universities, the California Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, and Decided, powered by MoneyThink. We also want to give special thanks to our connector sponsor, the College Futures Foundation, and to all of our generous sponsors. This free 4-week webinar series is brought to you by the Northern California College Promise Coalition, our members, our sponsors, our partners, and more. We invite you to share this series with your colleagues, students, and families across California. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.